Welcome to the weekly wrap, a Take Two side quest where we cover current and not so current events. I'm Kenny, this is Sam, and today on the stream we are joined by Evan. Evan, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking a lovely rosé that is called, I actually can't remember what it's called. It has something to do with the summer. It's very appropriate. It's very nice outside.
It matches
wonderful.
it matches your hair and your t-shirt.
And the natural hue of my skin.
Pink red.
Yes, you're very on theme. Sam, what are you drinking today?
I have a protein smoothie because it's bulking season with a shot of espresso with a shot of Calypso rum. So this is like top shelf stuff right here. Okay.
Wow,
That's gonna turn in your stomach.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Is this bottle made out of plastic? Yes.
Oh no.
Wow.
Has it been simmering for at least a year? Maybe.
I don't think RFK Jr. would be approving of Calypso.
Yeah,
so
all
get
the
away.
That's the thing. This bottle, you can't even get this anywhere anymore, which is why this is so valuable. And I'm only using it during the podcast.
It's gonna curdle in your stomach halfway through.
Yeah, it's like a White Russian. I'm drinking a Talisker Scotch today, so I guess I'm the only person of culture here on the pod.
Ridiculously classy with that glass.
Isn't it crazy? Like I can be wearing a hat and I'm just like, it just has oaky afterbirth.
Shooting billiards in Gaines of New York and talking about the politics of the peasants and how to best control them.
It's for Kentucky Derby Day, any sort of Scotch or whiskey.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely not a poor person's drink. Anyway. So this is going to be a news pod, so we're going to cover some news topics, and I just want our lovely followers to know that I do keep receipts. I do remember what I said. I stand by what I said. And guess what? One of our first podcasts, we talked about how the Oscars needs to change a few things, and guess what? The Oscars listened to me, yours truly, because the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has implemented a new rule requiring all members to watch the movies that they were supposed to be watching anyway. So
didn't know we were going to jump right into this, but great job. First off,
here we are.
Yeah. By the way, this is Evan, who is guest starring with us, not just a stranger beneath us. Kenny doesn't even want to introduce our guest, just launching into his receipt takes.
I introduced him. I asked him what he was drinking. He's here.
Well, this is Evan. Evan, a very longtime friend of mine. He is more of a TV viewer, and so he's going to be helping us with like some TV expertise, like Love is Blind and other high class shows like that he has never missed an episode of.
Any junk food television you want to know about, I'm your guy.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
But okay, Kenny brags. Yes, the Academy now has to. Everyone has to view it. I did see some people saying that like they can just click play and they walk away from their computer and it counts it as like seen. I'm like,
right.
Who? Okay, yeah, obviously. Who are they giving these things to? Where they're like these are like sixth graders being like, look, here's how you don't have to take the quiz. You do this instead. I'm like, these are the people deciding the Academy Awards, and they're posting stuff being like, look how I game the system. I don't even have to watch these films. Like, that's so pathetic. It's so stupid. Like, how are these people getting the votes?
It sounds like teaching. It sounds like teaching during COVID. That they're just like, you can't like monitor anything. You're just like hoping that they'll watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where it's like, you know, for the previous 97 years, it was just a part of an honor system, and the Academy is finally starting to realize like, oh, like there is no honor among thieves, and we actually have to start creating some real life rules. But yeah, it's one of those things too that it just kind of shows like how far behind the Academy is, because I was doing like our yearly HR training at work, and it was an online thing, and there are ways to have, you know, in this case, the Academy members receive screeners with all of the movies on it. It's basically an app that is exclusive, like it's exclusive to them, has like some like cryptid bypasses so that only Academy members can get into there.
Have you downloaded ours yet, Kenny?
Huh?
Have you downloaded ours yet that they sent us?
Oh yeah. I've watched everything that the Academy has ever released, including.
I would trust you guys to watch it more than I would trust them to watch it.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah, let's have like the People's Academy Awards. That's kind of what we're going for, which I guess is like
Rotten Tomatoes,
something probably from MTV, if we're being honest. It's like we slime the movies that we hate or something.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, like Nickelodeon. But it's just one of those things where it's such like, even it's clear that their streamer is even so antiquated that's like, listen, there are ways to make sure that people are actually like on it. Like they have to be on the screen for it to play. They have to finish it. Apparently the streamer, it's unclear, but from what I read, it may or may not allowed 1.5 speed in terms of watching these movies.
Oh my gosh.
So that was something that I couldn't confirm. Some people were saying yes, some people were saying no, but so it's like kind of a debate on Reddit right now, and obviously like it's pretty locked up, so they don't want people to know.
Like, why don't they just fly them out to a theater?
Yeah, seriously, and the amount of money in Hollywood to not be able to develop the software even to do that, or to fly people out, like it's just so bad right now.
It's also, yeah, I think the big thing there is like, how is there not? There needs to be some form of like penalty, right? Because basically the Academy works more as like, hey, once you're in the Academy, unless you get canceled, I think you basically have tenure. You're just there.
Here's an idea that I just thought of. What about, like, I know this all sounds super boring. It's probably the teacher in me, ex-teacher in me. What if after the film, there were like a very simple like quiz? Where it was
like a grammar level, like 5 grammar level questions.
What happened to this character at this point in the movie? Or like whatever, like 10 questions. Where it's like, really, if you're gonna skip the film and then you're gonna research all these questions, like just watch the movie, answer the questions.
They're always gonna find a way around it. It's like they asked us to watch webinars at work, and I just plug the webinar into AI and say, hey, give me the summary points. And it works. So they're going to do the same thing.
Great.
Yeah, there's always going to be ways around it. And I understand that it's just like, okay, if people are going to go through all that effort, or even if they're going to give it to their assistant, the assistant's going to watch it, it is still a marginal step forward. There are ways to make it better. I do think that, like, kind of going through the research, people have the opportunity to say, hey, like, we're not voting because we didn't watch it. And I do think that you'll see more of those, to where people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to go through the effort. I'm in the Academy. It's all anonymous anyway. I'm just going to say I didn't watch the movie and move on with my life. So that's what people can do. But I think I'll be interested to see if in this next year, if that changes, you know, the outcomes of some of these movies. Like if a movie like Dune 2 might end up getting a little bit more credit, if, you know, some more of like the more quote unquote entertaining movies and less of like just the Oscar, which, I mean, we love the Oscar bait slog, but like sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, how many depressing movies do I have to watch in a row in order to like stay current with this stuff? So you may end up seeing movies that like more like a more populist vote potentially. I think so.
Minecraft.
Are you saying Jack Black's going to be up for an Oscar this year?
Yeah, you know, maybe. It was like a few years ago where they did like the most memorable moment in movies, and it was like Ezra Miller as the Flash running. Do you remember this?
What? No, I do not remember that.
Oh my gosh, go watch the footage. It's like it was
I'd rather
so
not.
Just
Ezra Miller
pathetic.
is a freaking weirdo. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kenny, do you feel good? Do you feel vindicated? We spent the first 10 minutes of the show you being right about the Academy.
Yeah, they're listening.
I feel fantastic. To the Academy, I'm honored that I now have a consultant role on your board to make you better. Come on the pod.
Yeah.
The Academy.
Yeah, come on the pod. Join Seth Rogen and LeBron James and anyone else we've
Zendaya.
Anyone else we've roasted.
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa's coming on the pod. There's a running list of people that are going to come on the podcast and just destroy us. But all right, cool. So what we're going to do, the bulk of this episode, we have like 5 things I want to cover. The bulk though, at least for half of it probably, and the rest of the stuff we can hit pretty quick, is we're going to review episode 7 of The Studio. For anyone who is watching the studio. We have Evan on because he loves the studio. I love it. Kenny loves it. And it's in its first season right now. I don't think I've enjoyed, and we're going to do a full review of the season when it's done. We'll do a formal video. This video is even perhaps meant to be a live stream, but who can say? But we all love the season. I haven't seen like season 1 of a show I've been like this immediately into in a long time. So if you haven't seen the studio, it's definitely worth watching on Apple TV with Seth Rogen and a few other people. But let's talk about episode 7. It was the shortest episode by far. Like it went fast. I think it was like 24 minutes or something like that, which is like funny enough, like Entourage length, which this show like reminds me of Entourage in a lot of ways, but just like a more kind of cutting edge version of it. And that's how long those episodes were too, which is, it's fun. It's weird seeing a show move so quickly, be so entertaining and like get in and get out of an episode really fast. And yeah, I guess I'll kick it off by just saying it was, to me, probably like the first or second funniest episode. It's, you know, how I feel when I'm like, the whole episode, for those of you who haven't seen a quick recap, is they're making a Kool-Aid movie and they're debating how much representation of each race to have in the movie and what are they going to be canceled for or not canceled for. And they end up going down a slippery slope of Ice Cube is cast as the Kool-Aid Man. They go down a slippery slope of, well, we need to cast every member in the movie as black, which then comes off, they feel, as very racist because Kool-Aid is considered a poor man's drink, as they say. Okay. So the episode's very like plays on race, probably more than anything I've seen in a long time, probably since like the heyday of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And they do it in a way that's funny, and it's mostly all coming from like these 3 white higher ups where they're basically nervous their careers are going to be canceled if they screw up. So that's the episode. It's really, really funny. It brings in all these other races in the episode, like Asian, black, and to get all these various perspectives on what they think is appropriate for representation. And it's kind of just like a cyclical circle. So Evan, what did you think about the episode?
Oh, right to me. Okay.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was hilarious. I always love, we found a theme throughout all the episodes. We think that Seth Rogen, I say we because my wife and I very much we watch all of these together. But he always tries to start out with some kind of good intention. Like he thinks he's doing something really good and then it just gets blown up. He always thinks it's like, oh, it's just a small little thing that I'm going to do. And then everything changes and just blows up throughout the whole thing. So seeing that in this episode go to a whole new scale and how they keep trying to change it. And I think I've said to you before too, Sam, is Catherine Hahn, I think, is by far one of my favorite characters in this entire show. I think she does a hilarious job. You know, she has the quote in there where she's like, yeah, like, you know, women are the worst, like white women are the worst right now. And then like, wait a minute, you're a white woman. She's like, how dare you? My mother's from Cyprus. And so just like calling that out and like the anger and how she fuels it throughout it. I mean, it definitely was one of the top ones for me this season, outside of I think the Zac Efron episode or the doctor's episode. But yeah, it was really enjoyable. It did feel like it went really quick, but it feels like I'm glad that they did that. I'd rather them do something really witty and short and pump out good content rather than like prolong it and try to make it something where they didn't need to. So it was a great episode.
Yeah, just to go off what you said, I think you're right. Like Seth Rogen, good intentions, bad execution. I don't get too heavy, but I'm like, me and Evan were texting last night and we were talking about Seth Rogen, who, you know, Kenny, I don't have like, I'm very mixed feelings on him because I think he can be really funny. I think he's great in the show. The fact that he kind of like produces this is awesome. But I didn't like his whole in-between period of when all this comedy ended up until now, where he's just been like a super woke apologist. But it's funny. almost seeing himself in a role where he's like almost making fun of himself and maybe what he's gone through in the last 10 years as like in his actual life. And I almost wonder if what you said of like good intentions with poor execution / results, if that is, not to get too deep here because it's a comedy show, but if that is sort of woke in a nutshell, like, oh, we're really overthinking something and so we need to go do this thing, but then it comes off as like more offensive and more bad than it would have in the first place. You know what I mean? And I think you're right. I think that's why this show works really well. Is it almost has kind of that Always Sunny or Seinfeld to an extent where it's like, except in Seinfeld and Always Sunny and even Curb Your Enthusiasm, like the cast, they're not necessarily good people. They're like kind of bad people. And anytime they try and do something good or positive or get involved in other people's lives, it's a disaster. Where like, I think you can genuinely say at least like Seth Rogen is trying to do the right thing for film, for people around him. And it's just, and it always blows up. I think because they're so concerned about what people think about them, which is like just so woke in a nutshell, which they do a good job of making fun of it. I haven't seen a show make fun of wokeism like in way too long. So
yeah, and it's funny too, and this is going all the way back to the first episode, but when he says like in the very beginning where like he's tasked pretty much with the idea of ruining movies because they need to turn out a profit. So I guess that's something that was actually said to him on the set of Superbad. So back in the day, like the producer and director said that he's tasked with like ruining movies and like ruining all these things because they need to try to make it good. So, you know, bringing it back to this too is like they end up trying to make this good. Like, I mean, they're making a Kool-Aid movie anyway, which is ridiculous, but that they need to turn out a profit for this. And then they go down the whole pipeline of looking at all the race issues and all that stuff to it, of like trying to make something good. And then it's just making it worse every time.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the show is too like playing into definitely like the road to hell is paved with good intentions, which I definitely think is a huge theme there. And then also just like kind of poking fun at the reality of like, you know, we were joking last week and some people probably didn't get the joke apparently that Sam was trying to make it just about like putting yourself up on a moral pedestal, where Hollywood does that a lot, putting themselves up on a moral pedestal. But like, it's funny that they're even debating like, oh my gosh, like, is this inclusive enough? But like, you look in the room, it's like, oh, you're all like white people trying to determine this. Like how performative is this going to be? Instead of like, it takes them so long to be like, oh my gosh, you want to know who we should actually talk to? Like people of the races who it actually impacts. Like it's the crux of the episode where he's finally like, oh my gosh, there's only one person who can answer this question, as though he just has this like revelation from the Lord being like, oh my gosh, I know what we need to do. Like this is like such a revolutionary idea. I'm just gonna go like talk to Ice Cube and find out if he finds it racist that he himself is playing the Kool-Aid man. And so I think that that's really funny. I think that this episode was probably also being written and developed around the same time as like last Oscar season, where there was a bunch of stuff around like The Brutalist coming out, because there's also this like AI subplot that ends up being what blows up in their face, and they're all like walking away being like, oh man, at least it was AI and not like a race thing. We're not gonna get canceled for AI. And it just like shows that you're making these trade-offs about like, oh my gosh, we're gonna change the whole cast now, which means we don't have enough budget to actually hire an animation studio, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that's like, it was really funny to see that. And I was thinking about what you've been saying about Seth Rogen, Sam, a lot about like, you know, this is kind of like him returning to form, being like, no, we're gonna like poke fun at this. And it's something that's released by Apple, and you know, Apple is typically really polished, and you know that they're thinking through these things. And I think that it's actually quite fascinating that like Apple is willing to release this and be like, yeah, this is funny, this seems real, and like across the aisle, everyone loves this show. Everyone is laughing at this show regardless of who they voted for. And I think that that's also very interesting and very telling, that they're all like, oh wait, no, like Hollywood does tend to do this like performative nonsense, but in reality, like they're not actually any more equal. They're not fighting for equality, even though they have all of these things. Like look at that room. It's just a bunch of white people in that room. Congratulations. Like they had to go hunting basically for like the three white people who were like on camp, or the three black people who were on campus, and they knew exactly who to go to. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, everything you're saying, like I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I think the AI thing, going back to that really quick, that's one thing I think was overblown even with the brutalist and stuff. So like that was the only part of the episode. I think it works, but I'm also kind of like, I feel like that's so trendy, that's so quick, and it's going to be so short-lived that I almost wonder if like just that one part is going to age the episode a little bit. But whatever, I don't care about that. It was still funny, the AI thing. But like the whole AI discussion, like who cares if people are using AI? Like, oh, then guess what? You're supporting jobs of the people who developed AI, right? Like, so like everyone's getting supported somewhere, so it's just kind of annoying, that whole thing.
I think you could also potentially read the episode in the opposite light of they thought so hard about being inclusive that they didn't think about who they were actually giving jobs to at the end.
Yeah.
So to me, like when I was watching the episode, it read to me like, hey, AI is the actual like menace here. It is the thing that like does pose a legitimate threat to people in a creative realm, where this other stuff, this like the like hey avoiding being canceled stuff is not actually, it doesn't support or not support any like jobs basically.
Yeah.
So it's like the real villain is this, and that's kind of what that lady is saying when she stands up in Comic-Con. It's like, you're taking away jobs.
Yeah.
You spent all this time making sure that you had this really polished cast and didn't consider like the ramifications of the hundreds of jobs you're going to be eliminating in the process.
Sorry, go ahead, Ev.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I took that more, the AI thing is like you were so just like fixated on the one thing, like all the casting issues, and then in the end, like no one cared about it like at all. Like this is a Kool-Aid movie, and so I didn't think that anyone cared about it, but they were more angry about the AI. So they were focused in the wrong direction, and that's kind of the circling it back to this, the whole thing of like he was just got so fixated on one thing, they ended up blowing everything up, and then everyone was just angry about one thing. It's like no one really cared about the casting; they just wanted the movie. And then finding out it's made by AI, they're like, that's what they're angry about now. So I think that actually makes it a timepiece, showing it that like this is AI, this is like the moment, this is what people are mad at, compared to they're not as mad about the race thing anymore.
I think even expanding even beyond what you two said, it's like something we talked about weeks ago, Kenny, when you were just on a rant about Star Wars fans, and you were like, they're the worst fans, they'll complain about anything. I think if it's not AI, it's something else. They're always gonna, it could be insert whatever instead of AI. Fans are always gonna be upset about something, right? Like every time I'm on X and I'm going through and something's coming up about a movie, TV, casting, a remake, whatever, people are always just freaking out about who was cast, like who's shooting the movie, who's writing the movie, based on their race, based on their gender, based on their sexuality, based on the history of the film or the franchise, based on the studio. Just everyone's always upset about something. So like at the end of the day, maybe don't get on stage and pretend things are going to go well, because they're probably not. So I think just bigger thing there. I think really the company we see the most doing this, and everyone's been doing this, right? I think politically it does feel like there's a shift. This is actually, I think, a great timing for this show to be released, because the last like 8 to 12 years have felt so woke in a lot of ways, and I feel like the country is like ready for a breath from that, like a breath of fresh air from that. And so I think it's good timing on the release. But people are tired of Disney. People are tired of Disney like intentionally wokeifying everything. Like Disney seems set out to infuriate fan bases of IPs. Like they're just like, oh, any press is good press, and they'll do the worst thing imaginable. And it's really backfired on them, like in so many ways. They've been losing obscene amounts of money through all these like IP restarts and shows and movies that have just been failures. And so, like you said, for the either way, whatever way you voted, like it's pleasantly surprising to see Apple, what a company that's considered like pretty left wing, I would imagine, to, by the way, and Apple streaming was like dying, and they were banking everything on Severance. They were like, can Severance 2 be our meal ticket? And I like this show way more than Severance, to be honest. Maybe I'm partial and I haven't seen a good comedy in forever, but it's just, it excites me more. But props to Apple for taking a chance on this and saying, hey, let's like not get political. Like Ted Lasso season 3, right? Ev got way too political, and even season 2 got way too political. And it's like, oh, they had to like suspend and cancel the show for years, and now they're finally bringing it back. And it's like, yeah, people don't want that. Like at the end of the day, we're going to watch TV. Like I don't want to see something like super right leaning. I don't want to see something super left leaning. I want something that's just all around universally funny. And so, anyways, props to the show. Yeah. Hilarious episode.
Yeah. And if you don't like this show, then like go and find a sense of humor. Like if something is offending you, like go and ask yourself why it's offending you. I think that's another big thing that it's pointing at is it's poking fun at a lot of these things. And it's exactly to what you guys were saying. It's like, this is good intentioned, right? Like all of these things, like trying to bring more equality to the workplace, trying to be more inclusive. Those are all like good and well-meaning things. But like, if you are upset by something in this show, it's like, I don't know. I would just question whether or not you have a good sense of humor or not. And if you're willing to laugh at yourself. So,
yes. Well, well said. So
it's, I was gonna say, it's fun to see like one of those shows where I don't think like anyone's really safe from it, which is like good. You want everyone to be able to feel like they can be made fun of, and it's good to look in the mirror at that stuff. Especially Hollywood needs to be made fun of the most. So it's good to good to hear that.
100%. I think like before we move on, I was just say like it reminds me of Prime. Like me and Lauren are rewatching Seinfeld right now. It's so funny, and it reminds me of Prime Seinfeld. It reminds me of Prime Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where like you said, Ev. Like no character is safe in those shows, right? No one's off limits. Nothing they do is off limits. And that's what makes it so funny. You don't want characters to be untouched. So, all right, let's move on. That was our sort of episode 7 recap. We are going to do a huge season review when it comes. We'll do a ranking, maybe a draft. Kenny's into that. Speaking of drafts, we're going to quick sports movies recap. Just wanted to give a shout out, Kenny. Ev, did you end up listening to that episode or no?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So we'll get Evan's thoughts on it. And then, because I don't know what his thoughts are. Beforehand, I will say, and if Evan, you have any of these that we missed, some movies we didn't mention, Kenny, which kind of, I guess, in recap, I feel, are we justified in not even mentioning these? Not, like even as honorable mentions. The Blind Side wasn't mentioned, which like, whatever. But like, What's Her Toes won an Academy Award. It was more of a sympathy award because she got cheated on by her husband right before, and everyone voted for her. Whatever. But Rudy, I don't think we really mentioned or talked about.
I was surprised that one didn't get in.
I don't like Rudy.
Okay. $1 Million Baby. Okay, Clint Eastwood wasn't even mentioned. Here's the big one. Here's the one that shook me that we didn't talk about. You ready? Can you guess? Any big ones we missed? I'll give you.
Dude, I'm sure there's so many sports movies.
Here you go. Are you ready though?
Yeah.
The Karate Kid.
Yeah,
I love The Karate Kid. It has like 4 sequels. It did well enough to have sequels, and now it's like 5-6 seasons on Netflix for Cobra Kai. Like that's a massive franchise. Mr. Miyagi, like Daniel LaRusso, Johnny Lawrence, like those are some huge actor and character names. So I'm just saying that those just popped into my mind when I was re-listening to the episode. And I was like, wow, I can't believe we didn't mention like freaking Karate Kid. Like that's and that's an alternative sport, kind of like we talked about 3 racing movies and we couldn't get karate in there, and we talked about fighting movies, but poor Daniel LaRusso. I love Karate Kid.
It is a good point. I would say that it would like. And I do think that my list is probably a little bit more niche than other people. Just that my list is mine. It's not for everybody. I understand that, but I think I would have still kept Karate Kid as an honorable mention. We definitely should have mentioned it, but I don't know if it would have actually ended up.
I think
Mount Rushmore.
In a world in which my movies had gotten taken, had I remembered Karate Kid, I could have slipped Karate Kid in there because it's a great movie, and I could see Daniel LaRusso's face with his little thing on a Mount Rushmore. So I just want to throw that out there.
Definitely would have been a much better pick than Happy Gilmore.
No. Okay, Evan, give us your take. Obviously, it was my draft. It was Kenny and Josh's. Who won the draft? Who had good? What were some good picks you liked? What were some bad picks? And did we miss any?
Okay, so I need to preface this because I have this this argument with my wife all the time over what is a sport.
Yes. Here we
So
go.
racing, not a sport for me.
Yes,
so I wouldn't even
appreciate
put that in a top movie.
Evan, I'm with you.
Controversial
That's
take.
insane. That's
I
an
don't
insane
think golf is
take.
a sport. I think it's an activity. So
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Not a sport movie for me. Karate Kid, you mentioned that. That's more of a, it's a thing you do. I don't think it's a sport. So anyway, I have a very, very strict guidelines on what makes a sport. So it eliminates a lot of the movies.
Very niche guidelines.
Yeah. Very standard.
Those are some crazy takes. So basically for you, a sport is anything that's played on a field that has a ball that you can score points in.
That is a sport. When you said that,
that's
right?
A sport.
What went off in my head, Kenny, was that is a sport. Whatever you just described.
Challengers. I've watched that. It's one of my wife's favorite movies. Actually, she loves that movie. But
great.
I feel like it's made for women. It's supposed to be like you're watching, and that's okay, But it's like it's
made for thruples.
It's really good for thruples. Which, I thought it was fine. I feel like it got snubbed from a nominee for its soundtrack, and that's about it.
Agreed. Yeah, it just came out. It came out too early in the year, and it got forgotten about, which is a shame. The soundtrack is great.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, I hadn't seen a couple of the big movies. Like honestly, I know what Miracle is. I've never seen it.
You've never seen Miracle?
I've never seen Miracle. I know, and I know what it is. I'm more of a TV guy, remember?
I know. That's crazy though.
Yeah, so I've never seen that. But so I mean, based on all that, I mean, I would say I'm probably won that draft. But just 'cause, like I'm not a big challengers guy. I don't think some of the other things are sports. I think they're more like activities and things to be like I don't think F1 is a sport either. So
I don't even know.
Man,
I don't even know.
Evan's
if I feel,
out here just getting ready to get canceled.
I don't even know. I don't even know if I feel good about getting Evan's vote for winning this. Evan's like, haven't seen half the movies. The other half aren't sports. That leaves us with Remember the Titans. Sam ergo de facto wins the Mount Rushmore. The Mount Rushmore.
Wait.
Is there any movies?
Boxing? Is boxing a sport?
No.
Oh, jeez.
Holy dude.
Evan, are there any movies that weren't on there? I know you love horse racing, and it's the Kentucky Derby today. Did we leave off Secretariat or Seabiscuit?
Yeah, Seabiscuit.
Yeah, no, that's not a sport.
I was gonna say Seabiscuit just for our boy, for our Spider-Man call out, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, I mean, not that I could think of. I mean, in recent memory, I know like one of the only big ones. Like, I was also trying to because obviously I'm a soccer player, but I was trying to think if there's any good soccer movies. There's zero.
No, there's
no good soccer movies.
That's actually a great point. That is a great point. Honestly, like the world's most popular sport doesn't have a good soccer movie.
By far, like all the movies ever are terrible unless you're watching like She's the Man. That's probably the best one.
She's the Man. That's a great.
Bend It Like Beckham.
Bend It Like Beckham.
Bend It Like Beckham.
I don't think it's even like a soccer movie, is it?
There's some soccer. There's a ball.
There's David Beckham.
For 3 seconds.
There's soccer.
It's in the title.
That's a great point,
I think of any. I mean, I think that. Yeah, so I couldn't think of any of those. I mean, I was when we were halfway through the podcast, or fourth way through the podcast, I was listening to it. And Rocky hadn't been mentioned. I was deeply surprised by that, but I can be flexible on if like boxing and UFC is a sport. I can see it, but
don't worry, I got Rocky for us, Ev.
Yeah.
I've
only seen one of the Rockies.
Maybe the three of us should go watch Dwayne Johnson's The Smashing Machine that's coming out.
When is that coming out?
I don't know. It looks pretty good. So
I would
for
watch
those of you
it.
who don't know, The Smashing Machine is a new movie by Benny Safdie, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and it's a biopic about the world. Mark Kerr, who's just one of the world's historically best MMA fighters ever. Like, you watch a lot of his fights, and it's going to be a pretty brutal movie. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm also very much looking forward to seeing The Rock in a more like
serious role.
upscale role, like
Upscale,
actually challenging himself to be someone other than, just
take his shirt off and
himself.
bounce his man titties for like gag humor.
Yeah, we're gonna be turning that one into a short.
Sorry,
sure.
that's what he does. Like, that's like, so every role he's in, he's always just like, oh, somehow my shirt got taken off, and let me like bounce my pecs around a little bit.
Yeah.
And
like if you were that
are we
big, you
still
wouldn't.
finding that funny? I guess so.
Still
I'm
getting
laughing.
casted.
It's still pretty good.
You're not laughing. You're not even laughing, Kenny. Anyways,
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I hear you. He does look. He has like his body is transformed in this movie. Like you can tell that he's like bulked
I
up.
agree.
and-
It's the first time I've seen The Rock in anything I've been excited for. So,
Yeah.
I like just seeing the pics from the movie. I'm like, oh, this actually looks gritty. So I like that.
Yeah.
I want to quickly touch on Sinners, which Evan hasn't seen, but I just wanted to talk really quick, Kenny. Continued success for Sinners, being re-released into IMAX theaters, and you tell me what you think about this. 2 of my high school girls went and saw the movie. They didn't know what it was about. And they each came to me the next day. I said, what did you think? One of them said, what would you give it out of 10? They both said, I liked it. Now, these are high school girls. They're not looking too deeply into these movies. But one of them said, I'd give it between a 6 and a 7. The next girl said between a 7 and an 8. They both said something similar. And this was kind of what I thought was going to happen. When this movie trickled down to teenagers after a few weeks, when the hype had gotten around, there was nothing else until Thunderbolts had come out. And kids were going to see this movie. They were like, it was really weird. I didn't think it was going to be a vampire movie. It was good, but like weird. And I was like, were you scared? And one girl was like, I thought I was a little scared. And the other girl was like, no, it wasn't scary at all. It was just kind of like came out of the blue. So, wanted to talk to you about that. See what I'm just feeling the pulse of the teens and seeing like, and just in general, like, where is this movie landing after time?
Yeah, I think that those are honestly 2 pretty legitimate takes. Like it is a little bit more of an abstract movie. I do think that that's fair to say. If you hadn't seen any of the trailers, there's no reason why you would have thought it was a vampire movie. I actually don't even know what your expectation for the movie would be if you hadn't seen a trailer for it, other than, oh my gosh, like the world's most beautiful man is in this movie. Because like Michael B. Jordan, after watching so many of these movies, is probably the world's most beautiful man
and most beautiful woman.
I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Josh Allen's fiance, way to go.
Yeah. Evan has a huge crush on Haley Steinfeld, so there's that. Also, the world's most beautiful man is Chadwick Boseman, but I just respect the dead. So, but he lives on in my heart forever.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's a great point. I take it back. You're right. Chadwick Boseman takes the crown from
Kenny. I will say also, we didn't mention. I haven't seen it, but we didn't mention the movie 42 with Chadwick Boseman.
I did mention it. I mentioned it.
Did you mention it? Okay.
Yes.
Was that an honorable mention? Okay, sorry.
It was an honorable mention. It was like when I was building my draft, I was like, I needed to have a baseball movie in there, but I didn't want to have 2 baseball movies.
I heard it was good.
It's incredible. It is.
Wow.
It is really, really.
You really should replace.
I mean, of course it is. It's Chadwick.
You should have replaced Ford vs Ferrari with that movie because I watched Ford vs Ferrari. And I heard 42 was great.
I thought Ford vs Ferrari was a really good movie. I did enjoy it.
I paused it like 5 times. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie's saying forever. I'm going to legitimately go in on that movie, but not today. We will. Yeah. I have a great idea for that, and the Wrath of Samuel is coming for Ford versus Ferrari. So watch out.
I look forward to the review.
Yes, universally beloved movie. Watch out.
I do think one last thing on Sinners is this movie continues to like build hype to the point that like people got kind of mad at us online for giving it 7.5 and 8 out of 10 instead of like a 10 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
Yeah, like a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, you guys clearly didn't get the movie. This movie is developing this weird cult following that I'm still not fully grasping, to where I do think it, like, I really, really enjoyed it. It may be the best like new movie I've seen this year. I do think, like, Sam, you and I talked a little bit about Black Bag in comparison to it. I mean, it's like an apples and oranges movie, but I do think that like I think that that movie is the other movie that's competing right now for me with Sinners in terms of like best movie I've seen in theaters this year. But it's very bizarre. I do find it bizarre how much the internet likes this movie after seeing it. I usually feel as though I land somewhere like in the middle of the internet, and this time I'm like, whoa, I'm not understanding where the internet's coming from. So I think that's interesting.
Is it a?
But we should move on.
Okay, we can move on. Okay, we can move on.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I will cap my thoughts on Sinners. It's just it's an interesting phenomenon that's going on. Yeah. So it's funny.
Yeah, and it's making a ton of a ton of money, which I think is awesome.
Which is great. Okay, then I want to move on real quick. I want to talk about Revenge of the Sith. Okay, talking about making money. Kenny went and saw Revenge of the Sith. I would love to rewatch Revenge of the Sith. I could watch Star Wars anytime. I was watching A New Hope the other day, and I was just like, when it was just on somewhere where I was, and I was just like glued for 15 minutes. I knew every line. I was like saying them, like lip wording the lines. I was like, I love this movie. I love every part of it. Kenny, you went and rewatched it. I've seen it like 100 times, so I can talk about it to death. Here's what I will say. For all the money Sinners is making, this movie, Revenge of the Sith, is about to hit $1 billion worldwide on a re-release into theaters 20 years later.
That's total, right? Like that's on top of its original box office.
I don't know.
Is that true?
That has to be. There's no way.
Yeah, it has to be. But that is, I heard it's making a ton of money, and a ton of people are going to rewatch it in theaters. I saw it in theaters when it came out. And I'll never forget like where I was sitting in the theater, who I was with. Like I was such a massive Star Wars fan, still am sort of. And we'll talk about that after this. But give us your take on rewatching Revenge of the Sith in theaters.
Right. So a few weeks ago, I kind of ripped into Star Wars fans saying that they're like the most toxic and worst fans in the world, which is actually, turns out, according to the internet, a pretty cold take. A lot of people agreed with me.
Too many people.
I have seen all of the Star Wars movies. Like until very, very recently, I was caught up on all Star Wars media. It was something that like when specifically when Force Awakens came out, like I was in line opening day waiting I skipped school in order to go and like watch this movie sort of thing. And so I have a deep history with the Star Wars movies. I also think I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters when it came out in 2005. So I was kind of excited to go and see it in theaters again because there was all this hype. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is going to make $20 million on a re-release 20 years later in its reopening weekend, which is just so fascinating to me. The theater I was in was completely sold out. It was actually very hard it was very, very hard to find tickets in Denver to go see this movie, which I was like blown away by. But rewatching this movie just did kind of like reinforce a few things for me. I thought I was going to like it more this time around than I did. I still had a great time at the movies. Like anytime you go see a Star Wars movie, unless it's The Rise of Skywalker, which is just like an absolute dumpster fire and one of the worst things I've ever seen brought to the silver screen, period. I just think that movie is complete garbage, and J.J. Abrams should be sent to prison for even considering making that movie.
Well, he had to make it to clean up Rian Johnson's mess.
Yeah, he had to go and clean up the best Star Wars movie. He had to go and clean up a movie that was actually going to expand the universe.
The Last Jedi is
and
legitimately
actually explore the philosophy of the yin and yang, of the dark and the light.
No,
this movie actually has like deep philosophical relevance. Yeah, we have to go clean it up so that the stupid fans can be happy.
There's nothing philosophical in The Last Jedi.
Well, I think you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on that.
It was so bad.
The best Star Wars movie.
They had to get rid of Rian Johnson. And they literally brought in J.J. Abrams, and they were like,
they got rid of Rian Johnson because the fans were terrible, and the fans don't want to see anything other than New Hope over and over and over and over again.
That's not true.
Period.
At all.
It was purely to satisfy the toxic fan base.
That is not true.
Anyway, back to Revenge of the Sith. This movie, Yeah, this movie was clearly, like, when it was released, just impervious to focus groups. The beginning of this movie, it's like impressive how Lucas was able to get such bad performances out of so many amazing like, in this movie, you have Natalie Portman, who has been either nominated or has won an Academy Award. Ewan McGregor, same thing, nominated or has won. Samuel L. Jackson. There's a ton of people in this movie who are incredible actors and actresses, and they're all wooden. It's honestly fascinating to watch. I would be shocked at this movie, like when they were showing this movie to people and like doing the private screenings. Like, it's clearly one of those things where no one could tell George Lucas, who was the writer, director, executive producer, and also the studio head who made this movie. He was just clearly not going to hear no about anything. The first half of this movie doesn't take itself seriously whatsoever, which is very, very bizarre. Like, the death of like Count Dooku is so nonchalant and nothing, and they're just like joking around the whole time. And then somewhere 75% of the way through the movie, they just decide to be like, okay, now it's going to be dark and brooding.
Whoa. Let me stop you right there. How are you going to say, 75% of the movie, it gets dark and brooding? The Count Dooku scene, the movie gets serious right away. He literally beheads Count Dooku with 2 lightsabers.
As though it's nothing. Like, the
what are you talking about?
Is filmed and is written in such a way that it has no weight.
He's literally sitting there, Anakin's sitting there like, I shouldn't do it. And he's like sweating, and Obi-Wan's hurt, and Darth Sidious is like, or Palpatine / Darth Sidious is like, do it, kill him. And he's like, no, it's not the Jedi way. Like, you feel the way, and then eventually, like, that's the first sign of like, oh my gosh, like, he's turned to the dark side. He kills him, and we're like, Anakin might be in trouble. What? Wait, he literally beheads a guy.
It feels like the whole I think like first half until like Order 66, like, it happens. Like, I feel like it's very like slow. Like, like if that were just like part of the movie, it feels like they're world building all the way up to that, and it was really. It's just slow. It's not really anything to look at, and then you get fully back entrenched into the Star Wars universe again.
No. Revenge of the Sith is not slow. If anything, it's the opposite of slow. This movie has like freaking 100 lines of dialogue in it, and that's it. Everything is action in this movie. It starts with a massive 6 space battle where we get to see Anakin like flexing his skills. We meet we meet General Grievous, which is freaking sweet. We have a rematch with Count Dooku. That's like the opening scene. And then we get to see all these different planets. Like we get to see the Clone Wars taking place. Like, this movie is freaking high octane action. Even though some of it you're like, oh, Palpatine, how did he just like kill like 4 Jedi people, like a horribly coordinated lightsaber scene until it gets to Mace Windu? They were just like, I don't know the hate on this movie. Like, I don't get it. Yeah. It's
not. It is definitely the best of the prequel movies. It still is. I think you're right, Sam. I do think that this movie is actually very, very entertaining, and I would also agree that the movie is going too fast because it's like la-di-da-di-da-di-da. Oh my gosh, Order 66 happens, and then the actual movie begins. Is kind of how it strikes me.
Well, there's so much time that passes though in between the Star Wars films that we have to have things happening. We have to have Natalie Portman, Padme pregnant. We have to have all these storylines reintroduced. We have to see Jar Jar. Is he a Sith? Maybe. Like, these slow things seeping out.
That is no excuse. You're telling me that the creator of the world could not have been like, instead of a trilogy, we're going to make a 4th movie. Like, that's not a strong argument to be like, oh my gosh, there were so many things that had to happen in this movie. They didn't all have to happen in this movie.
I think whatever happened in an appropriate amount of time. I think you go in to watch a Star Wars film, especially the George Lucas films, say what you want about them. The first 6 movies, I'm never bored during them. He keeps things moving, and he makes them. Yeah, he makes them for a. You have to remember too, Star Wars under George Lucas, this is one of the biggest worldwide IPs, right? And I've seen him talk so much. They're like, why is your dialogue often corny, or why is it kind of like surface level? And he's like, listen, when I'm writing these movies, I'm not thinking about the Academy or about like how intelligently to say a line. He's like, I'm writing for the entire world. Like this movie is going to be released in other languages and other countries, and he's like, or people who, to an extent, don't even have the ability to watch with subtitles, and can you understand what's happening without even dialogue? And it's like, yeah, you can under George Lucas's Star Wars. I even heard Revenge of the Sith as like, people see it as an opera almost. Like it's, we're just watching these like menacing, epic things happening, and we understand what's happening without needing to be told like at a high level.
I also don't always like that though. Like I want a little bit more dialogue. Like I think there's a lot to be left wanting, and you could say that across like all of the. I won't even mention the most recent 3 Star Wars movies because those really don't count at all.
Thank you.
But through like the 6 movies, I think that George Lucas and the writing and all that, it's just like I think there is a lot left to be desired, and I don't like it feels like an excuse to me to be like, well, yeah, but it's because there's so much going on and I'm like doing all this other stuff, and it's like, well, okay, but I still want like dialogue. Like I think that Natalie Portman as a whole is like one of the worst parts of the movies. Like her acting is terrible. Like the writing that is for her is terrible. Like she doesn't deliver things well.
The only place
like her and Hayden Christensen have like there's zero chemistry. They could have had more chemistry with a cardboard box.
I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I will say though, I think it's an unfair judgment because I think tons of dialogue in 4 and 5. I think tons of dialogue in 1 and 2. And I think 3 and 6, Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith, are like, you're capping off a trilogy, and oftentimes that lends to being action-packed, right? If you go and watch, for instance, the last... like Endgame and stuff, there's very little dialogue. We are talking about, we have had a lot culminating for just these huge fights, and that's what we want. And I think if you go back and watch, you can criticize those movies and say, well, they're not having enough high-level conversations, but it's like, we have to take into consideration everything that's been building up until that point.
And that's fine. Like, I don't have anything wrong with a very, very action-packed movie whatsoever. I think that that's fine. That doesn't excuse the fact that the dialogue that is there isn't allowed to be good, though. Like, that the dialogue still needs to be good. You think of John Wick, right? I mean, there's probably 50 lines of dialogue in like all of the John Wick movies. Like, people are not talking during those movies. That's fine. The storyline is roughly like just as complex.
No, it's not.
In Star Wars dialogue, as it is in John Wick.
No, that is not true. And the dialogue in John Wick is not good. Like,
but there's not a lot. Like it's brooding, and it like hits the purpose. This movie, like George Lucas being like, oh my gosh, I'm writing this movie for the populace. Like, okay, that's kind of insulting to your movie watchers to be like, oh my gosh, you have to tell me from Anakin's point of view the Jedi are evil. It's like, no duh, dude. Like, I've watched this whole 2-hour movie. I understand that he thinks that there's flaws with the Jedi. I don't even need that line. Like, or write the line better.
Kenny, remember though, you got to get off your high horse here, because I grew up as like a 6-year-old thinking I was going to be a Jedi when I was older. Like, Star Wars is, and this is something I want to bring in.
It does not get to hide behind it being a children's movie. Children's movies can still be good, but it can still have good writing. It doesn't get to hide behind that.
It's not hiding behind it.
It's still enjoyable.
It's one of the most successful film franchises ever, like top 3 probably ever, because it relates to everyone. It's not hiding behind it. Like, how could you be that successful if you're not able to cater to everybody and to touch with everyone?
Not saying the Star Wars series is bad at all. Like, it's a great series. It's just like, now looking back on it, like, 20 years now, so that there's more that I think that they could have done. Obviously, when I still watch it, I still love the Star Wars movies, and unfortunately I'll still go watch stuff that they release, but it's more like looking back now and be the hindsight Harry and be like, oh well, there is some more that like they could have done, or like that I want more of now. But of course, when I'm growing up and I'm like 12 watching this movie. It was like fantastic, and I loved it. And
Yeah.
like you can't differentiate what's a good movie and not at that age.
Right.
You know, you're just kind of watching it for the excitement factor, which is why you watch Star Wars, is for the excitement factor. It's just there's more. It left something to be wanted for. You know, I want more now. Now that I can see it again, and I have a brain.
But before I've rewatched this movie as an adult, I love it still, and I think I'll say this before we move on because we're taking a lot of time on this, but I get heated because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But I'm one of the toxic Star Wars. Yeah, I'm one of the toxic Star Wars fans. But I defend Star Wars, especially the original George Lucas films to the death, to a fault. But highlights from this movie, though, all the combat in this movie is epic, and it's everything we've wanted. And it's like I said, it's like Endgame. Like, not a lot going on in Endgame besides all the matchups we've wanted to see. It's like the Super Bowl, right? We get to see Sidious versus Mace Windu. We get to see Sidious versus Yoda. We get to see Anakin and Obi-Wan in probably the best fight scene maybe in like cinema history as far as like duels. Like it is tethered how cool it is. And mock the movie all you want, like it's insanely iconic. Like there are so many memes like from this movie, and not necessarily negative memes, just like, oh wow, what an iconic line that sends a universal theme and is still being used 20 years later every day on my feed. That doesn't happen often. And I think that's pretty freaking cool. Like even I love the Obi-Wan General Grievous fight. Like no one was able, I haven't seen anyone since George Lucas, no one was able to bring in characters, crappy dialogue or not crappy dialogue, make them so cool, give them an hour on screen, have them die and be the most, and remain iconic for 30 years. Like Darth Maul. Like everyone loves Darth Maul. And it's like, dude, the guy had 3 lines and he somehow made him sick. He just
the whole
had
General Grievous thing still infuriates me though. Like he did not last long enough. You know, like he was one of the coolest villains that was that's what's so cool about George Lucas. He's just like, I'm out of time. I'm not making another movie. I'm not making a episode 3.5. He's like, here's another cool character I thought of. I'm inserting him. You guys can have him in your lore forever and use him forever.
And that is what people like about Star Wars, is the world building. That is like, I disagree that people like it because of its universal human themes. I think that people like it because it's such a fun world to hang out in, and it feels lived in, and like it is otherworldly, and in a sense it's not human. And I think it's like one of the first ones to do it. And the fact that the movies are technological marvels, almost every single one of them, this movie included. Like watching it now, I'm like, yeah, there's a few things here and there that are like a little bit wonky, but the CGI is really good. That first scene where they're like flying around is like, oh man, this is awesome. This is incredible. Everything on Utapau is really, really interesting. And the final scene, even though it's like all green screen, it's like, I believe that they're fighting on a river of lava. That is amazing. The set pieces are amazing. The world building is still incredible. Like the character design is amazing. Everything technically below the line is incredible. But that doesn't mean that the characters are compelling. And does not mean...
if we're talking about Revenge of the Sith specifically, it's tough because, again, it's at the head. But, like, you want to go back to A New Hope? Like, I'll tell you from an education standpoint, in college, in high schools, they are still teaching the hero's journey using A New Hope because it hits it so well and it is so universal. And we're like, I was a teacher, like as a student teacher being taught by other teachers, like this is the quintessential hero's journey film. Everyone loves it. Everyone can relate to it. Here's all the themes in it. Good versus evil. Look at all the characters' growth, where they come from. Like, so like it's literally being taught in public school system as like, I don't think you can get much more universal than that. We got to move on though. This is taking way too long.
Harry Potter should be the one that's taught.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
Agreed.
Yeah. Whatever. Star Wars is better than Harry Potter. Let's just move on.
Patently false, but it's fine. We can go. Let's go.
We are running out of time. It's going way too long. Here's what I want to. The last thing I guess we'll have time for. I'll have to skip a few things. Is Evan went out of his way for me and Kenny because me and Kenny are highbrow viewers. Okay, we're very particular with what we watch.
Yeah.
Evan is not. He went and watched A Simple Favor 2 with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, and he is going to give us his unfiltered review of that high-octane blockbuster film. So, Evan, how was A Simple Favor 2?
So we're talking about how action-packed Revenge of the Sith is. This has even more. This is nonstop. No, that's not even true. No, this may be the only reason we continued watching this is because of how bad it is. Like it's one of those movies where you're like, this is almost hilariously bad, so we have to keep watching this. Can I do spoilers?
Yeah, go nuts. Go nuts.
I'm never going to watch
You don't
it.
want to watch it?
We
okay.
Evan, no offense, but me and Kenny are, as we put it a few episodes ago, on a pedestal, and we do not return to such filth as A Simple Favor 2.
That's all right. I'll sit
refuse
down
to
here
come
in the
down out
filth.
of our ivory tower.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes. It's a tall
you
tower.
bring me on whenever you need to learn about trash. That's what I'm here for.
All right, give it to me.
Yeah. So first of all, we all know Blake Lively isn't really known for her acting prowess, but it's really on display here how bad she really is. Like she's with all the stuff that's been going on with her too, her character that she's playing, she's trying to be like this mean, like really trying to like pull the strings, be like the puppet master and all that stuff. And you can see like, this might actually be how she is in real life. Like I couldn't tell if she's playing herself. She did do a thing. They decided to, apparently she's a triplet. And so she tries to play two different characters at once too, like trying to be her sister at one point.
Michael B. Jordan style from Sinners. I wonder who did it better.
But to make it even better, she has a thing where her sister has a thing for her. So there's a whole scene where Blake Lively's sleeping with herself. And she's trying to act this out of sleeping with her sister while she's also still Blake Lively, and it's just atrocious to watch. It's horribly awkward. We were
sounds like a Challenger sequel.
It's we were confused why they even made a second one of these. I mean, we know with all the stuff that's happened with Blake Lively too, like they killed all the press and media for this. But I'm starting to think like it's not even because of her. I think it's just because the movie's that bad. Like it shouldn't. They pulled it from theaters. Like it got released for free on Amazon Prime. So we just watched it on Prime for free because we saw it on there. If there's anything good about it, they make a lot of martinis. We like a good martini, and the fashion that Blake Lively has is like it's neat to watch, I guess. But like it was really bad. I mean, especially when you're playing your sister who knocks you out and sleeps with you is not something I ever wanted to watch, especially
what is happening in this movie?
Especially when it's acted by Blake Lively. Yeah, it's
you can't even sleep with yourself well.
Yeah, not even that. And Anna Kendrick's just kind of there. Apparently, there's
I haven't seen her in a while.
Rift between them. Like, yeah, she doesn't get along at all with Blake Lively, so it's confusing.
Does anyone besides Taylor Swift get along with Blake Lively?
No. So it pretty much is. They try to do a little bit of the same plot as the first one.
Again, haven't seen it. Haven't seen the first one.
I saw the first one. I remember it being like, I saw it in theaters, and I remember being like, cool, and then moved on with my life.
Yeah, this is not cool, and we moved on with our lives very quickly that night. So yeah, not worth watching. But if you're into some decent fashion, watching people make a lot of martinis, then I guess it's okay.
What would you give it out of 10?
2 out of 10.
Jeez. Oh man, I'm gonna need to make about 4 martinis if I'm watching this movie.
Yeah, without hesitation.
Next episode, Sam and I will live stream watching Simple Favor 2.
Oh my gosh.
Martinis.
Actually,
like the writing is bad, the acting is bad, directing's bad, like all of it is just bad. There was no good piece of it.
If the three of us could ever set 3 hours aside and actually live watch a movie together, it would actually be so funny, and we could pause it and stream it and comment on the movie as it's going along.
It would be
Kenny,
great.
We need to do that with the movie you love, The Last Jedi. We can pause it, and Kenny can make good points, and I can make negative points about what's going on.
We can be yin and yang.
Yeah,
of that
exactly.
movie.
And Evan can
Yeah.
be the dreamsicle in between us.
Yeah, it's the last three movies I think don't count in the Star Wars. Whatever, it's for another time. We don't have to go
Another
back
time.
into that. I don't like them either.
Don't get me going on Star Wars. This
I know, you're
episode will
hot
last
right now.
3 hours.
You need to
I'm
calm
real
down.
hot right now. Okay, well, there's a lot more I wanted to get to, but our episode's running long, so we'll wrap it up. This is our first weekly wrap episode. So, don't even know how we're going to necessarily release this, but I'll probably release it today or tomorrow, and we will figure it out. So, Evan, thank you for joining. It was super fun.
Thanks for having
you.
me.
Thanks, Evan.
And
a pleasure.
Everyone, make sure you like, sub, and drop a comment on everything. Okay, thanks. Bye.